I'd been obsessed with the Civil War since I was a kid, Gettysburg especially. There was something about the brutality, the weight of history soaked into every blade of grass, every cracked gravestone. So, in July of 2001, just after my 25th birthday, I finally decided to spend a long weekend in Gettysburg by myself. No tours, no ghost walks, just me, my notebook, and a cheap room at a bed and breakfast on Baltimore Street. The air was heavy with heat and cicada noise during the day, and by night it turned sticky and wet with a kind of silence that had its own presence. I'd always believed places could remember things, could carry the echo of the people who had walked them. I just didn't expect that echo to speak back. Saturday night, after a long walk across the open fields of the peach orchard, I wandered past the tree line toward Rose Woods. I shouldn't have gone that deep, not without a flashlight. But I was feeling bold. There was a bright half moon above me, and my boots crunched over dried leaves as I stepped into the woods. It must have been close to midnight. I stopped walking when I heard it. Drums. Faint at first, like they were traveling over some impossible distance. Then the sharp call of a bugle. I crouched low by a thick tree trunk, heart hammering in my chest. That's when I saw them. A line of soldiers moving in file through the woods just 50 yards off. Confederate gray. I could make out the slouch hats, the rifles slung over shoulders, and the hollow look in their eyes. At first, I thought it was some elaborate reenactment, even though the park was officially closed. But then I noticed the way the light passed through them, like they were mist and memory stitched together. There were dozens, maybe more. Some limped. Others bled openly from wounds that didn't seem to slow them. One man's jaw hung half detached, flapping like torn leather. Another clutched his side, fingers buried in phantom intestines, and all of them marched as if compelled by something older than death. I was too terrified to breathe, too fascinated to look away. And then one of them stopped. A tall soldier near the rear. He turned his head, slow, mechanical, and locked eyes with me. He saw me, no question about it. His eyes were milky, but they had depth, recognition. He raised his arm and pointed directly at me, and the others, every last one, began to halt, turning like wolves, catching a scent. That's when I ran. Branches clawed at my arms, my shirt tore on a twisted snag of barbed wire left over from God knows when. But the sounds followed me. Boots against leaves, the slow roll of that infernal drum. I kept tripping, kept scrambling up again, until I burst out onto the edge of the wheat field near Sickles Avenue. Silence. No footsteps behind me. No drums. Just the night, staring back. I laughed, a sharp, cracked sound. My legs were jelly, my chest heaving. Then I heard the voice, not from behind me, beside me. "You lost, soldier?" I turned and nearly choked on my breath. He was standing there. It was 10 feet away, clear as day in the moonlight. The tall one who'd pointed. His coat was shredded down the side, and his face was a jigsaw of dry rot and old blood. But he stood like a man who still believed he was alive. I'm not a soldier," I said, taking a step back. "I'm not part of this." He smiled, and it was the worst kind of smile, the kind that doesn't belong on the dead. We all part of it, whether we want to be or not. The forest behind him shifted, and I saw the rest emerging, a phalanx of ghosts with pale, eager eyes. "You got good legs," the tall one said. "Can you march, boy?" I didn't answer. My mouth was dry and useless. "Can you shoot?" he asked, lifting a rifle from the darkness. "'Cause we're fixin' to head back to the line. We short a man." The soldiers around him began to raise their rifles too, not at me, not yet, but held loosely in their ghostly hands like an invitation. I turned to run again, and then they were everywhere, in front of me, behind me, sliding from between the trees like smoke given shape. I fell backward, hitting the ground hard. My elbow struck a root, pain flaring like a warning shot. My eyes burned with tears. "Please," I whispered, "please let me go." The tall one stepped forward and crouched beside me. His breath was foul, like rotted leaves and copper. "You ever die before, son?" he asked gently. "Ain't so bad, once you done it." He reached for me, and his hand passed into my chest. Not over it, into it. Cold fire bloomed behind my ribs, and I screamed. That's when the cannon fired, not a modern sound. A deep, thundering boom like thunder tearing the world in half. The air shimmered. The ghosts flinched. The hand in my chest recoiled as if burned. And then, just like that, they were gone. The woods emptied. The night grew still. I lay there for a long time, staring up at the branches above me, moonlight flickering between them. My body shook. My heart stuttered in my chest like a broken drum. I don't remember walking back to the B&B. I don't remember unlocking the door or collapsing onto the bed. I woke the next morning with mud caked to my legs and a handprint burned in blue across my chest, right over my heart, the shape of a Confederate glove. It's still there, faint now, like a shadow under the skin. But every July, it burns hot again, especially near midnight, and sometimes I hear the drums calling me back. I think they still want me. I think they'll never stop, because I heard what the tall one whispered as the cannon roared and his face began to fade. "You're already ours, son, just taking your time catching up. I've never been back to Gettysburg. I never will." People think ghost hunting is all EMF detectors and shaky night vision cameras. They don't understand that what's really scary isn't the flicker of a flashlight. It's the silence that follows a question you didn't mean to ask. It started with a call from a guy named Cal Jennings. He ran a paranormal podcast called The Last Watch, and he'd somehow wrangled permission to spend 3 nights in Gettysburg, out in the wheat field. The National Park Service rarely allowed overnight visits, but Cal had connections. He wanted a real paranormal team to join him and record the experience. I didn't know Cal well, but he was persistent and had a voice smooth enough to sell poison. Against my better judgment, I agreed to join him, me, Lisa, our EVP specialist, and Jules, my cousin, and the team's reluctant historian. We'd been to Gettysburg before, daylight tours, amateur investigations, but this was different. We'd be alone in one of the bloodiest patches of land in American history. Night 1. The cold starts early. We arrived just before sundown. The air had that October bite, sharp enough to sting your nose. The park ranger who let us in warned us with a chuckle. Don't go digging up any bones. And if the boys in gray start talking to you, don't answer. I thought he was being cute. That laugh stuck in my mind longer than it should have. We set up near the tree line bordering the wheat field, facing Rose Woods. Cal was giddy, pacing with his handheld recorder, narrating everything. Jules lit a cigarette and muttered, "We're gonna freeze our asses off." Around midnight, the woods got quiet. Not peaceful, unnaturally quiet. No wind, no insects. Even our gear seemed to lose its hum. Jules was fiddling with the thermal cam when Lisa turned sharply. "Did you hear that?" I hadn't, but Jules and Cal both nodded. Lisa pointed toward the slope descending into the wheat field. It was like metal scraping, distant but low, like bayonets dragging. We went silent, and then we did hear it, just once. A sharp clank like a canteen or saber hitting stone. I called out, "Hello? Park Service gave us clearance. We're just documenting tonight." That's when Cal's recorder glitched. The little LED went red, and he smacked the side of it, cursing. Lisa swept her audio boom around in slow arcs, whispering, "Ask a question. Say something." So I did. "Is someone out there? Are you one of the soldiers?" 10 seconds of dead air. Then Jules cursed under his breath. I looked at the thermal cam monitor. A pale blue figure had appeared, standing just beyond the crest of the hill, cold as death and still as stone. Not moving, not blinking, just watching. Lisa froze. Her EVP recorder ticked once, then popped, static, whispering. We couldn't make out the words, but they were pleading. "Did you hear that?" she hissed. "Play it back." She rewound the clip, heart thudding. "Help. The fire. Can't see. Where's my leg?" We packed it in shortly after that. Night 2. The men in formation. Something had changed by the second night. We arrived around 10 p.m., later than the night before. The air smelled strange, like wood smoke and iron, like someone had dragged a battlefield through the trees and hung it in the branches. Jules refused to go down to the wheat field. "There's something off down there. I felt it last night. It's like that dirt doesn't want us standing on it." We made our way into the field anyway. The moon was full and fat, and even the tall grass looked like it was holding its breath. Lisa placed the EVP recorder on a mossy rock in the middle of the field and started asking questions. "Who are you? What regiment? Are you Union? Confederate?" Nothing. Then Cal saw them. "Holy shit," he whispered. "Guys, over there." At the edge of the woods, silhouetted against the moonlight, were what looked like figures in formation, dozens of them, holding rifles, silent, perfectly still. I raised the thermal cam, cold, unnaturally cold, no heat signatures. But there was movement. One of them turned their head. It looked right at me. We stood frozen. Then a whisper floated out across the grass like a breath on glass. "Fall in." They weren't reenactors, not this late, not this still, not this wrong. "Fall in," the voice said again, louder this time, layered with a rasp like dry leaves blowing through a corpse's mouth. The formation began marching, slow, heavy steps. The ground didn't shake, but it should have. Lisa whispered, "They're coming toward us." We started backing up. Cal kept recording, eyes wide with a mix of terror and awe. The figures were clearer now, torn gray coats, bayonets. Some were missing limbs. Others bled from places where no one could survive bleeding. "Leave," one of them growled. Another, "You don't belong here." Jules turned and bolted. I followed, nearly dropping the camera. We made it back to the car, locked the doors, and didn't speak a word until the sun was up. Night 3. The Tree of Hands. We weren't going to go back, honestly. I wanted to leave Gettysburg entirely, but Cal said we had to finish it, for documentation. We waited until 2 a.m., dead hour, as Lisa called it, and crept back into the woods just beyond the field. This time, no lights, just IR gear and a whole lot of nerves. The air was wrong, thick, too still, too alive. We found the tree about 30 minutes in. It wasn't marked on any trail. Jules spotted it, an old twisted maple with something hanging from its branches. Hands, dozens of them. At first I thought they were props, latex or rubber, but no, they twitched. Some clenched and opened slowly, as if feeling for something. Others pointed. Lisa gagged and backed away. Cal lifted his recorder. "Are you trying to tell us something?" he asked the tree. The recorder clicked. "What did it say?" I asked, heart thudding. "Watch the dirt." We looked down. Fresh footprints in the soft loam beneath the tree. Barefoot. Dozens. Some with broken toes. Some with drag marks, like someone had crawled through on their belly. Then the ground moved. It rose, slightly, and something breathed beneath it. Lisa dropped the recorder and ran. Jules followed. I stood there for a moment, staring at the shifting dirt, before I heard the whisper again, closer this time. "Fall in." Something cold touched my ankle. I ran. Cal never released the episode. 2 weeks later, he went missing. The last file on his laptop was an audio clip from that third night. I still have it. Sometimes when I can stomach it, I play it back. It starts with the sound of wind, then a faint hum, like a bugle call from far away, then a single sentence whispered in that same grave, dry voice. "You're one of us now." Lisa quit the team. Jules refuses to talk about Gettysburg. As for me, sometimes I still dream about the wheat field. In the dream, I'm standing alone in the fog. I hear boots crunching behind me. At first turn, they're there, gray coats, hollow eyes, shattered mouths. "Fall in," they whisper, and in the dream, I do. My name is Daniel Carter. I've been a night shift nurse for almost 12 years now, mostly trauma, sometimes psych. After a while, you get used to the weird stuff. Patients screaming nonsense in the middle of the night. Blood-soaked drunks trying to bite you. Old folks murmuring to people who aren't there. I thought I'd seen it all. Then I started working at St. Agatha's Memorial in Gettysburg. It's an old hospital, built partially on the foundations of a Civil War field infirmary. You hear the stories, ghost tours, nurses seeing soldiers out of the corner of their eyes, call lights going on in unoccupied rooms. I always rolled my eyes. I'm a man of science, or at least I thought I was. But then he came in. It started on a sticky July night, the kind where the humidity clings to your skin like wet cotton. The ER was oddly quiet. Around 2:43 a.m., the automatic doors slid open, and in limped a man in tattered blue wool. A Union soldier's uniform, faded, shredded, and stained black with old blood. His face was ashen, dirt-streaked, with a crusted beard and a wild, glassy stare. He left a trail of dark, muddy footprints and drips of thick, dark blood as he staggered toward the triage desk. "I've been hit. Sharpshooters in the tree line. Chambersburg Pike," he rasped. I thought it was a Civil War reenactor having a psychotic break, or maybe some junkie on bath salts. He collapsed onto the floor with a wet thud. I rushed over. The stench hit me first. Rotten meat, mildew, iron. His coat was soaked, and underneath it, I saw the holes. Dozens of them, circular, jagged, torn through flesh and bone. The wounds looked old, necrotic, as if he'd been rotting for days or decades. We wheeled him to Trauma Bay 3. I remember pulling his shirt open and feeling my stomach tighten. There were bullet wounds, yes, but they weren't modern. The entry points were too wide and irregular, like they were caused by musket balls. The surrounding flesh wasn't just bruised. It was black, eaten away, riddled with maggots the size of my thumb. When I cut open his trousers, a cloud of flies burst out and scattered through the room. One of them. of them landed in my mouth before I could turn away. I gagged, and stumbled to the sink. Dr. Halperin came in, took one look and said, "What the hell is this? Is this a movie prop?" But the soldier was alive. His heart monitor beeped. His eyes fluttered open. He looked at me and whispered, "Tell Captain Fowler." We held the orchard. We held it. We sedated him and got him stable. For a while. That morning we started trying to identify him. No ID, no wallet. His dog tags were rusted to the point of illegibility. Security camera footage from the ER entrance? Blank. Just static for about 20 seconds. I didn't sleep that day, couldn't. Something about the smell, the way his flesh moved, like it didn't belong to him. When I returned the next night, he was gone, not transferred, not discharged, just gone. No record in the computer, no trace in the room except for the overwhelming stench and a blood stain that wouldn't come out, no matter how much bleach they used. Housekeeping refused to go near it. 3 nights later, he came back. This time he stumbled in through the ambulance bay entrance. He was missing his left hand. It looked like it had been blown off, tendons and bone exposed. He kept mumbling, "Cemetery Hill, cannon fire from the east. They breached the line." Same uniform, same wounds, now fresher. His right eye was gone this time, an empty, wet socket filled with what looked like black soil. I helped lift him onto a gurney. His skin tore like wet paper beneath my gloved hands. "You were here before," I said, trying not to look directly at the writhing mass beneath his chest wound. I swear I saw something move in there, not organs. Something pale and worm-like, squirming around inside his ribcage. He nodded slowly. "I never left. None of us did. They keep pulling us back." "Who?" I asked, almost whispering. His teeth were red and splintered as he smiled. "The dead don't like to be forgotten." The next day, I researched every detail I could. There was a Captain Fowler. He died in 1863 during the Battle of Gettysburg, killed defending the peach orchard. The soldier's uniform was accurate to his unit. Everything matched. But that wasn't the last time he came. Every week, sometimes twice in a night, he reappeared. Sometimes he looked younger, freshly wounded, freshly terrified. Sometimes he was barely holding together, flesh peeling from his bones, black ichor dripping from his jaw, his voice gurgling through torn vocal cords. I started to dream about him, not just dreams, memories, his memories. Standing in a trench, musket in hand, rain falling, mud sucking at my boots. My friend Timmy screaming as a shell tore half his head off. The sharp, gut-churning smell of blood, feces, gunpowder. Waking up in cold sweat, hands clenched, heart pounding like a drum. Then the bleeding started. I'd find holes in my scrubs, in my skin, tiny, round openings on my chest and legs. Sometimes I'd feel a hot sting, like a spark had landed on me. And when I checked, there'd be a fresh wound, weeping thick, dark blood. No one believed me. Psych eval stress leave. I was told to step away for a few weeks, but I couldn't stop going back. One night, I stayed after hours. I brought my own gear, sat in Trauma Bay 3, camera rolling, lights low, waiting. Around 3:15 a.m., the room grew cold. The glass of saline bags fogged up. The monitor beeped once, twice. Then the lights went out. And there he was, standing in the doorway, his skull exposed on one side, brain pulsing beneath a torn scalp. His left arm, a dangling, bloodied stump. Half of his chest was missing. Through the ribs, I saw others, faces, screaming silently from within his cavity, as if the dead were trapped inside him. "You see now," he hissed. I tried to speak, but I couldn't breathe. "They forgot us," he said, "but we remember, and we are still fighting. The last thing I saw was his hand, not flesh anymore, but bone wrapped in moldy sinew, reaching toward me. I woke up in the parking lot, clothes soaked in blood, not mine. Trauma Bay 3 had been sealed. Biohazard warning. No one knew how or why, but 3 nurses had gone missing that night. Their cars were still in the lot. Security footage showed them walking into that room and never coming out. I quit after that. Moved to Harrisburg. I still wake up screaming. Still find the holes sometimes. And sometimes, in the dead of night, I hear the sounds of war, the cannon blasts, the screams, the muskets firing, just outside my window. And I know he's not done with me, because every wound I get is one he remembers, and the dead never forget.